Good, Carmen. I'm just going to wait till it's 11. All right, here we go.
Hey, I want to thank everybody who's already joined us live. This is our continuing experiment with what we're calling Ask Autoline. This is the third time that we've done it. We keep making improvements to it. It seems to be pretty popular. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to kick off the discussion with a topic here. I'll get to that in a second. Then we're going to open it up to your questions. Anything you want to ask, be reasonable. I mean, don't get too crazy about it, but we'd love to dive into anything and everything to do with the automotive industry. Okay, let's get going on my thought starter here. And it's all got to do about gasoline taxes and what's going on in the U.S. market right now vis-a-vis that. So here's a real problem that we have. There's a disconnect between U.S. regulations for fuel efficiency and emissions and the cheap price of gasoline. So the government wants a whole lot more MPGs coming out of cars, lower emissions, and they want to see more plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles sold. And yet the price of oil and gasoline and diesel is so cheap right now that instead of rushing out and buying those kinds of vehicles, people are running out and buying crossovers, SUVs, and pickup trucks instead. And as you all know, the high performance segment is red hot. This is the golden age when it comes to performance. But like I said, the U.S. market is out of sync with what government regulations are calling for. And I think the only thing that could fix that is a gasoline tax. If gas is cheap, people are going to go out and buy the kind of vehicles that they want, and that's a good thing, but it flies in the face of what government regulations are calling for. And I don't think that we're going to see gas prices spike up like they have in the past, because as I've talked about, fracking, I believe, is a game changer. It is going to keep oil prices within a range, probably in $65 a barrel to $85 a barrel for a long time to come. And even if there is a spike, it's going to come back down because there is so much oil that's available right now. And that's not an endorsement of fracking. That is a statement of fact. So I think a gas tax would be the way to do it. And if it came fast, you would see a big change in what people are buying in cars. Because we've seen if gas prices go up slowly, even if they were to go to $4 a gallon across the country, if they go slowly, people don't react. It's when gas prices go up fast that we see a change. In fact, if it were to jump to $4 a gallon across the country sometime this year, you'd see everybody running out to go buy a Prius instead. Here's the problem. Any politician who proposes an increase in the gas tax is going to get their head cut off at the next election. People don't want it. So there, I'm throwing that out as a matter of discussion, and let's see where we're going to go from here. In fact, we got one question from Ronald Harrison who says, John, regarding the gas tax, why does it seem like the default position is that the government comes first when it comes to taxes? Should we ask the government to be more efficient with the money they have now in order to free up additional funds for the roads? Well, look, it's a basic matter of economics, and we live in a capitalist system that if you raise the price of something, people will use it less or they'll use it more efficiently. Whereas if you keep something cheap, they're not going to. So I think it's better to have market forces drive what people do instead of government regulation. So in this case, taxes actually are a way of getting rid of government regulations. Remember, in Europe, there are no fuel economy regulations. There are emission regulations, but there are no fuel economy ones. Okay, Matt Abadia says, oil prices are going up higher regardless of new taxes, thanks to the Fed. I'm not sure I agree with that, Matt. There are some gas prices going up right now, or oil prices are going up slightly, but that's all it is. It's up slightly. I don't see it going a whole lot. Frost says, while I agree with hybrid and electric vehicles, I also recognize that low oil and gas prices are great for the economy, my business, and bank accounts. I wouldn't support a gas tax. And yeah, that's why it is political death if any politician gets out there and starts calling for a higher gas tax. because people don't really want to pay more at the pump. But I'm still arguing that from a pure capitalist approach, far better that you use taxes to do it than a whole bunch of regulations, which requires all kinds of government involvement, which adds costs. So it's not as if the regulations are a free way to go. They're probably a whole lot more efficient than just having, well, like I said, I think a whole lot better way of doing it is with taxes. Chris Mann writes in, I live in Pennsylvania and fuel is taxed heavily and our roads are some of the worst. Increased taxes won't save the roads if the state wastes what they have anyhow. Couldn't agree more with you, Chris. You know, we, the people, have got to make sure that if we're going to raise gas taxes, that it doesn't just go into the general fund and then it gets spent any which way that it might get spent. We need to have very specific reasons or places that this money is going to get spent, hopefully on infrastructure, because I think that's the only way that the population is going to support any kind of a tax increase. VRYALT3R3D says these costs would inevitably be passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices, resulting in a regressive tax hike on those who can least afford it. Great point. There's no doubt that people with lower income would be hurt the most with a higher gas tax. But then again, you know, there's no easy answer in any of this, or we would have taken the easy way out already. But I think your input there is a good one. Frost says, agree with your thought process. Thanks for that. Scott C says, as always, excellent show, John. Gas prices in Vegas are on an average of $3.80 and up again. Thanks again for a great show. Yeah, different areas of the country are experiencing different ones. A lot of it's got to do with refining. For example, in California, same thing. You're looking at close to $4 a gallon. But in most of the rest of the country, it's around $2.70, $2.80 right now. Let's see. We're waiting for more questions to come in. Oh, we got them right here. I'm not looking at everything. Kurt W. says, what's your take on Subaru's killing the Forester XT and replacing it with a sport model with only minor trim changes? Well, look, sport models are the way to make more money. They're the hot thing right now. An automaker that comes out with a sport trim model of an existing vehicle can charge typically 10% to 15% more. So if you can't build more vehicles because you're capacity constrained, your assembly plant simply can't make more, one of the easiest and fastest ways to increase the money coming through the door is to come out with a sport model, and you can charge more for that. Kurt W. also wants to know any information on why Michael McHale left Subaru. For those of you who don't know, he was the head of corporate communications for Subaru of America, and he was there a long time. He's out. I don't have any information on why he's out, except that he did say there was a difference of opinion. Clearly, he thought the company should be going in one direction when it was going to go in another, and so he's not there right now. Okay, and we'll wait if there's going to be any more questions coming in. And here they come. Robert Berg says, if we do see a major increase in average fuel prices, how bad would that hurt the manufacturers who have gone all in on SUVs and XUVs? You know, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much. Number one, they make more money on those vehicles. Number two is that they're going to be coming out with hybrid versions of these crossovers, SUVs, and even pickup trucks. They're going to be doing plug-in versions. In some cases, they're going to be doing pure battery electric versions of them as well. So going forward, they're not going to be hurt as much if gas prices go up a whole lot than they were even in the recent past. Scott C's back saying, we thank California for our gas prices. I'll go to Bullhead City, Arizona, and it's a lot less. Yeah, California is more expensive because it all comes down to refining. And if you're going to sell gasoline in California, it has to be reformed or refined in a way that's going to burn a whole lot more cleanly. Also, starting in another couple of years, California is going to have what they call decarbonized gasoline. That is gasoline with less carbon in it. That's going to drive up refining prices too. So the benefit is you get cleaner fuel. The downside is it costs more. And the other problem for California is none of the other states use that formulation. So you have very few refineries that can make that gasoline, and that drives up the cost too. K-Work says, increasing the tax from oil companies instead, maybe. Yeah, well, you can increase tax on them and they'll pass it along, but there's a lag factor and it affects other areas of their business. Far better that you just put the price at the pump and take care of it and take that money and put it into improving the infrastructure of the country. That's me talking. You guys can weigh in on what you think too. Chris Mann says, would it be beneficial to have all road maintenance for each state to be subsidized to control the spending of the fuel taxes paid by consumers? Well, look, maintenance is just that, maintenance. You built these roads, you built these bridges and ports and airports and everything else that goes into the infrastructure. You got to maintain it. It's like doing an oil change on a car. If you don't do the oil change, the engine's going to seize up probably before you hit 100,000 miles. If you do regularly scheduled maintenance, boy, those things will go for hundreds of thousands of miles. We don't do enough maintenance here. We've been in many states in the country, we've been skimping by, not spending the right kind of money on it. And boy, just go out and look at the infrastructure of the country. You can see the results of not doing the proper maintenance. Let's see. Boy, I wish you guys would come up with some easier names to read here. Vrial23RD. I know you know who I'm talking about. I recall on a prior show from over a year ago that a new Lincoln Mark X Coupe is coming. 2020 model year, like the old Mark 8. Do you know if this will still be coming with the new shakeup in Ford management? Boy, we're never going to see the light of day on any kind of coupe coming out from Lincoln. That I don't believe. I mean, look, the writing's on the wall. People are walking away from passenger cars, and coupes are even dying faster overall than that. So I think it's very unlikely we're going to see a coupe from Lincoln. Bill B says, when EVs get more popular, how will the government get road taxes from them? Will that affect EV sales? Well, we're already starting to see some states charge more for the title for an electric car. So when you go to buy an electric car and you want to get the title, you're going to pay a whole lot more money, and that's how they're going to get the money. Because right now, the only way we fund the maintenance of our roads or building new ones is a gasoline tax, or that's pretty much the way it's done. So yeah, states will step up to get that lost revenue. Right now, it looks like most of them are going to do it by charging more for the title on those EVs. Will that hurt sales?